Welcome back, everybody, to episode 6 of Chaldean News Radio. This is your host, Cal Abo, and I am joined by two very special guests. Jamoua is here,
No.
who is used to be an agent with Michigan Farm Bureau, but is now in an ongoing suit with them. And his attorney, Robin Wagner, is also here. She is a partner at Pitt, McGee, Palmer, Banani, and Rivers in Royal Oak. Welcome to the both of you.
Thank you. Thank you. Shukran.
It's really nice to have you. Shukran, shukran. So why don't you, either one of you, or can give us the brief of what this case is about? We've written an article on it, but for anybody who hasn't read the article or doesn't know what's going on, just give us the 1 minute description.
Do you want me to?
Yeah.
Okay, so Al was 9 years. He worked as an insurance agent for Michigan Farm Bureau, and he did very well, built up a great book of business, and then a couple years ago, they basically started to strangle his business, told him literally, stop selling to your culture. Stop selling to the people of your culture, meaning stop selling to Chaldeans and Middle Eastern clients and customers. And they slowly strangled his business, so to the point where he could no longer have a viable income and business as an insurance agent for Michigan Farm Bureau and had to leave. And we've brought a lawsuit alleging race discrimination. And we are in a position now where the next step will be trial. We have succeeded in prevailing over motions that Michigan Farm Bureau has brought to try and get the case dismissed. They failed on each of their attempts, and the next step is a trial.
Robin, you said that that Al was told to stop selling to people from his own culture. Is that a quote?
Al?
Yes. They came to me and they told me your loss is too high, so stop selling for your people from your culture, which is.
How did it feel, Al, when you were told something like that?
I felt very bad because, first of all, you cannot do that because against the law. Second, it's my people. I mean, why should I sell for my people? I mean, I like to help them. I'm there for them. I even visit their houses and help them with their insurance for their homes, for auto. So yeah, I wasn't feeling comfortable with what they told me.
For you, why do you think they did something like that? Because we can't take it lightly, right? If they're gonna, they don't want Chaldean business, there's a big reason for that. So what do you think was going on at Farm Bureau?
Well, they came to me. They told me that you have high losses, and then they asked me who's your customer, and I told them majority they are Chaldean and Arabic descent, and they said the only way to avoid paying to avoid your losses is by avoiding paying for people, avoid selling for people from your culture. So that's the reason they came after me.
What do you can you explain the loss ratio to me, because I know that's an important part of the case and it's hard to understand.
Well, the loss ratio is like you have book a business where you have policy, you generate policy, and then you have losses like claims, so much claims.
Okay.
So they saying that I have more claims against what I'm generating. So the percentage between losses and income and premium is, they told me, is high. So that's how they come with the loss ratio.
Do you believe them?
No, I don't.
What did they do to the numbers? How did all this go down?
Well, I did find like a couple of cases where the number doesn't correspond with what is happening. So they mentioned that there is losses for a customer was $60,000, but really they only pay $6,000, or they file a claim to a customer and they never pay them, but they put a large amount of money, like 30,000 or 60,000. And some of these customers, they don't live in the United States, like they went back home or they went,
Really?
yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So, and I did talk to the adjuster about it, and he said we cannot do anything about it coming from the main office.
Wow. So did you I mean, did you see this happen with any other agents, or did it feel like you were the only one who was being targeted?
Multiple agents, they've been targeted, Chaldean, Arabic, and other minority like Albanian and Afghanistani.
If I can chime in, one of the things that's really wrong about what Michigan Farm Bureau is doing here and did to Al is that you can't make stereotyped kind of accusations against a whole culture, a whole group of people.
True.
Don't sell to your whole culture, to your people of your culture. That's fundamentally wrong. If they make an individualized determination that this particular customer is a problem, maybe there's an accusation of fraud and they have some reason to believe something, that's one thing. But they weren't making any individualized determinations about any of Al's customers. They were just saying blanket, stop selling to people of your culture. And that is a fundamental violation of the principles and of discrimination law in this country.
Well, what was it like building this case? Can you guys tell me about that?
It was tough when you have but in the end we had a lot of really great witnesses that came forward to
True.
support Al, because often when you have a case where somebody says X, don't sell to people of your culture, well, when you get them into the witness chair, they're going to deny they said that, and then it's just going to be, who do you believe?
Right.
Whose side of the story do you believe? This person or that person? But in this case, we had former agents of Middle Eastern descent come forward
Correct.
and support Al's side of the story and say, absolutely, the defendants here, Paul Wagner, Danny Nagin, the Farm Bureau as a whole, the other managers, would say things like that, would act that way. Completely believable. They gave other examples of discriminatory conduct that corroborated Al's story, and that made the case so much stronger.
Correct.
Yeah.
So if let's say who some of these people are, if we're gonna name drop them.
Sure.
You mentioned two names.
Mhm.
Danny Negin is
He's one of the managing directors for the Southeast region, which included the area, the territory that Al was an insurance agent in.
right.
And Paul Wagner, who at the time was also a manager for the Southeast region where Al practiced and sold insurance. And so they were his bosses, essentially, at the company.
Well, the insurance company is divided for multiple sections in Michigan, and we are in southeast region, which is Auckland, Macomb, and Downriver. So that's
Okay.
what they call us. And there's certain manager manage each section, and Dan Negan and Paul Wagner, they are a manager. Tom Parker, Tom Belgian. Used to be Chuck Canute. So all these managers, they were for Southeast region.
So you guys had to first, I imagine you deposed these people,
Yes.
and they had to give a testimony, respond to the claims. And then, can you tell me about some of the witnesses that ended up coming forward?
Sure. We had a former agent, Tom Sokol, who had a very successful insurance business up here. He's since moved out of the region, but he confirmed that the managing directors who we named would have said things exactly like Al reported they said to him. He had personal knowledge of their opinions about Chaldeans as customers, and knowing that they disparaged the idea of building a book of business around your community. It was essentially devastating testimony for Michigan Farm Bureau.
Right.
And Antonio Asmar.
And Antonio Asmar is a Chaldean gentleman who is currently I think he's still a Michigan Farm Bureau agent, and he corroborated that when he joined Michigan Farm Bureau, he experienced a lot of very negative, disparaging kind of comments and information about Chaldeans as potential customers, and that he was new and he didn't feel it was his place to speak out. But when called to the stand and asked to truthfully say what happened, he said, "This is what happened." And he also, both Mr. Sokol and Mr. Asmar talked about the rates that one way that Farm Bureau would try to diminish their business in Chaldean and Middle Eastern communities would be to have very high rates, much higher than the competitors, so that they would basically make it very hard for their agents to sell policies there and really discourage customers in those.
Well, we'll get into that. I have a question. Is Antonio Asmar the one with the training video?
Yes.
Can you tell me about that?
Well, he described a training session early on when he became an agent that was going to be about just
Training.
training on insurance. And they showed this video that was a YouTube video about a gentleman who's a Chaldean
Dealership.
who runs
Car dealership.
I think he does car service,
yeah.
and it was just meant to be a disparaging image of Chaldeans. It didn't have any purpose. It wasn't related to insurance. It was just to show somebody with base stereotypes about Chaldean people, and he was the only Chaldean person in the room. He was kind of shocked and offended by it. He didn't understand why they would play a video like that in the middle of a training session.
Yeah.
It was very inappropriate to show it, especially for a person like he's starting with a company. I mean, wasn't very appropriate from the company to show this kind of video.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Yeah.
So to me, it's like, it feels like there are two sides here. There's Michigan Farm Bureau kind of mistreating its own agents, first of all. Like you, Al, like, I mean, how can you say that to somebody? Don't sell to your people.
True.
And all the stuff with the losses that we've found, like disputing the numbers and stuff like that. This training video, and all the other testimony that you guys have. Then there's another side, which is the discrimination against Chaldean customers, and they're connected. But Al, I think you told me just before we started recording that about 60% of Chaldeans are with Michigan Farm Bureau, or what did you tell me?
Well, we had almost like over 20 agents with the company between Chaldean and Arab descent, and we generated large number of policy and premium for the company. I'll say about 60% of the Chaldean, 60% of the Chaldean and Arabic community, they are with Farm Bureau. A lot of churches that are with Farm Bureau. A lot of priests, cars, and home with Farm Bureau. A lot of businesses, Chaldean, Chaldean, we do business. I mean, like we private business, A lot of Chaldean, they have their own business. They are insured with Farm Bureau. So we generate a lot of number of business with the Farm Bureau. So I say, 60% of our Chaldean, they are with Farm Bureau.
And how does this, to me, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Why would they sort of, I mean, for lack of a better word, why are they trying to screw this community that makes up such a big part of their business? In your opinion?
I mean, I don't know the reason why behind it. Is it because I have no answer for that? But I think they've been attacking minority, especially Chaldean and Arabic descent lately.
I would say also, Michigan Farm Bureau, when we were fact finding for the case, didn't seem to have a single agent residing within the city of Detroit. So they also strategically tried to limit their appeal as an insurance option for African American community. So they do think about race and culture in their marketing and in their placement of agents. And it's very clear in the case we developed for Al and his claims.
Well, I'd like to add to this. Also, there is no agent representing people in Dearborn,
Wow.
and
That's surprising, right?
yeah, and there's no agent representing people in Sterling Heights. So they try to stop people, like she mentioned, Detroit, Dearborn, and Sterling Heights, and where that's majority like African American and Arabic community and Chaldean community reside.
And you guys found out some special information about Sterling Heights. Robin, you were about to start talking about it. This specific zip code in Sterling Heights, it's I have it in front of me. You know it.
48310.
48310 has a very high population of Middle Easterners and Chaldeans.
Correct.
And so tell me what you guys found out about it.
Well, Mr. Sokol, who is an extremely keen businessman, had done some research into looking at his customers and the kinds of rates they were quoted, and he started to develop this awareness that this zip code had some very bad, non-competitive rates attached to them. Mr. Asmar confirmed that I think at the time he had a fiance who was living in that zip code, and they couldn't afford Farm Bureau insurance, and he's a Farm Bureau agent. You know, they went with a different. She went with a different company. So that it seemed to be that this was a strategy as well. One thing I should point out, though, is that insurance premiums are the insurance companies are required to submit their rates, their premium rates, to the state regulatory agencies, but it's very opaque how that is done. It's very hard to understand what the calculations and the formulas in their black box are that go into setting those rates. So what we have is people who are there in the retail side of things trying to sell policies to customers and finding that the rates aren't competitive. But that's where our proof, our facts come from, is from the people saying you can just see the difference between the communities and the rates set.
They increased the rate like since like 2017, 18, and they increased the rate very high in that area. So, I mean, we were relying a lot on that area, and we kept losing people because people. I mean, most people when they come to you, you know, they come for your service, and also they come for the premium, you know. But when the premium is so high, I mean, if it was reasonable, they will come to you. But when it's so high, a lot of people they avoid coming, and they made it really high. So we lost a large number of people in that community.
And I think it's also important to know that in Al's case, he had a very robust, strong book of business that he had built up. And then what they did to him in the last 2 years of his time, his career with Farm Bureau, was they scrutinized, they required him to submit for scrutiny every single policy that was ready for renewal. So instead of having the authority he used to have as an agent, and most agents have, to renew their customers just as a matter of course, the way you probably do, and a lot of your listeners do when they when it's time to renew your insurance, you just get the documents, you look over them, you sign them, life goes on.
Right.
But in Al's case, he had to resubmit all the documents like it was a brand new
True.
customer. And that, of course, strangles your business because it slows you down. It gives people a chance to wonder, well, why is Michigan Farm Bureau treating me this way? Maybe I'll go elsewhere. But Al is the face. Al is the person they were dealing with, you know.
And this was part of a specific program that they started,
Right.
and they put you in this program, Al.
Plus
Plus who?
other people.
And why? What? Tell me about the program.
The program is like to try to examine the policy, like to see if it's a policy is people they have insurance, previous insurance, or if they have any accident in their vehicles or houses, or if they have losses, or I believe they were more than that. I think they were just trying to stop us doing business. I used to get like large number of underwriter requests regarding policy, and I wasn't the only one. It was a lot other Chaldean and other Arabic agent they've been going after, and they tried. These requests by the underwriter was more damaging to our books and more restriction in selling business.
Yeah, I will add, in the legal world, in law, we talk about pretext. Pretext, kind of a lie that the company is using to accomplish its unlawful goal. And here we think that the auto loss ratio and the scrutiny of Al and a few other Middle Eastern folks who were picked out for this scrutiny, that this was a pretext. And one of the ways we developed the evidence of that is that we talked to another former agent named Al Malali. He's of Albanian descent. And he said that he was scrutinized for his loss ratio, just like Al was. And then right before there was going to be a big change in the insurance agent contracts with Farm Bureau, suddenly they wanted him to sign. So suddenly his loss ratio
Dropped.
went from over 100% to down to 30-some% or something. And nothing happened except that magically the number changed.
So explain that for a second. Let's
Yeah.
hammer on that because it's really important.
Yeah,
So this loss ratio is a comparison of how much money you bring to the agency versus how many claims are made against you,
that's right.
And you explain this to me. This is where this is all coming
Sure.
from in our first conversation.
Yeah.
So a loss ratio of 100% would
Me-
mean you're about dead even.
That's
Exactly.
right. You sell $100 worth of policies and you have $100 of claims against them.
And Al, they were saying your rates were well above 100%,
They
right?
said like 175,
Yeah.
175%.
And Mr. Malali's rates were also criticized as being over 100%. But then suddenly the math changed. And Mr. Malali also said that he had real frustrations with an accounting method that Farm Bureau used that basically when an auto accident happened on one of your policies, they just took a chunk of money and assigned it to that claim, the $30,000, $60,000, depending on the type of accident it was. And then whatever they paid out from that, they never adjusted it back down. So there would be this big, so that's when Al talked earlier in the interview. He said he talked to some of his clients and they're like, it was about $6,000. But Al's looking at his book and it says that there was a $60,000 claim. So, there was just this magic numbers going on.
And I think I read that the pretext you would say was they were worried that there was going to be some kind of medical suit in the future, right? Or something. They were just reserving this money, but it ended up on the loss ratios.
That's right. So they were tagging certain agents with these large loss ratios and now and attributing it unfairly to cultural, to the ethnic backgrounds of the clientele, and that is the discriminatory pretext.
And the problem is like they supposed to remove that money. Like okay, they pay 6,000. That's how much should be 6,000, but they never remove the amount that they put there, like 30,000. So they supposed to remove it after a certain time, but kept there sitting against agent more than a year, 2 year, 3 years. And like what you said with Al Malawi, his loss ratio was like 175,
I
something
don't
like
think
that,
it was that, but
130
something.
or 100, something like that. But when they came and they approached him to sign a new contract, his loss ratio dropped down to 30, 35, or 39. So you can see there is something going on with that loss ratio.
Yeah. Wow. So this stuff is very troubling legally, obviously.
Yeah, so the next stop and at the legally what happened is after we got through all the fact finding, the depositions and reviewing all the documents, Michigan Farm Bureau filed a motion for summary judgment, meaning they wanted the case dismissed. And Judge Michelson in the federal court for the Eastern District of Michigan out of Detroit, she said, no, there's a lot of facts here that raise a lot of questions. This is a jury question. This isn't something you can get rid of on the law alone. So we won that. We survived to go to trial. And then they filed a motion asking the judge to let them go straight to the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals and try to get them to weigh in rather than having to go to trial. And Judge Michelson said there's nothing remotely novel or complicated about this lawsuit. There's no need to go to the Court of Appeals. The next step is trial. So we're headed to trial.
We're going to trial.
Yes.
That's great. And you guys is that the outcome you were looking for? Are you happy about that?
I think we're looking for justice for
Yeah.
And trials are challenging and costly and time consuming. And we are happy to bring his case to a court. But the point is to get justice for Al. He has lost a lot of his business and the success he had as an insurance agent. He had to rebuild and start over with a new company. It's been very difficult. It's been very trying for a long time, and that's what we're here for is to get Michigan Farm Bureau to acknowledge that they did him wrong.
Al, we've talked about some of the facts of the case, but we haven't really touched on your experience. And you've been dealing with this for the last 3, 4, 5 years. And so can you give us a little context of your background? When did you go to Farm Bureau? And then, like, from a personal perspective, how did this all start and how did it feel? And we know that in the Chaldean community, your reputation is so important. And yours was impeccable as far as I've heard.
Thank you.
And then, so why don't you go into that and tell us all about your experience?
Well, let me give you my background. I have a master's degree in engineering. I graduated from England. I came here in the United States and I started in my own business, retail business, and then I joined. I was selling as a financial advisor. In 2011, I joined Farm Bureau. Tried to sell a home and auto business, and I built very nice book of business with Farm Bureau. I try to help the company as much as I can. I try to help my customer as much as I can. And in the beginning was hard, But then I was getting refers from my community. A lot of my community supported me. I do have other people beside my community, but majority of my community they like to come and work with me. The reason they like to come and work with me because I explain things for them. I explain how is insurance. Insurance is there's a mystery in it. You need to explain to people how this car insurance work, how the home insurance work, and I do speak the language. I do speak Chaldean and Arabic and English. So they like to communicate with somebody who speaks their language, and that's how I built a book of business. I had a very large book of business. I was getting a very nice income from Farm Bureau, and I was helping the customer. I mean, I was really helping the customer until the last 3 years or 4 years when they made it very difficult for me to work with Farm Bureaus. It made it very difficult for me to help my customer, even writing a policy for customer. Every time I do something, there's underwriter, they blocking me or they won't let me issue it completely. So uh, now I'm with another insurance company. I don't know if you know, but I just suffered from heart attack because all the stress that I've been going through.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's been a struggle
Yeah,
to, yeah.
for certain.
Yeah.
Are you you're healthy now?
I, I I have medication. I have to go on medication, a lot of medication, a lot of exercise. I mean, my 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 health go up and down.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So it sounds like this had a big toll on you.
Oh yeah.
And for Michigan Farm Bureau, it's just some numbers, right? But here's Al, and he's the one who's suffered. I mean, for years, you said the last few years you've been
Right.
dealing with this. You lost you're discriminated against at your place of work. You were a very solid agent from the numbers, even from a
Correct.
numbers perspective, and all this stuff just ended up happening, and it's had so much of an impact on you that it's a shame. To me, it's a shame.
Well, me and my wife, we were planning to stay with Farm Bureau for another 10 years. We were getting a nice income, a nice stable income, but they just made it difficult for us. They just, as I mentioned, I couldn't sell anything. I lost a lot of people because of the increase of the rate, especially in our community. Uh, and it, and you don't feel comfortable when somebody come and tell you don't sell for people from your culture. I mean, first of all, it's against the law. Second of all, it's your people. I mean, if you don't help your people, who are you going to help?
Exactly. Exactly.
Really?
So I also wanted to touch on this. You had this large book of business. I think it was worth near $3 million,
Over 3 million.
and and they tried to basically offer you a very small amount of money for it when you wanted to leave,
Yeah, they try to offer me $1,000 a month for 10 years.
which comes out to what?
Like
120?
120, yeah.
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 For a $3 million book of
Book of business,
business.
yeah. Which is not fair compared to what income I was making. And they pay you 1,000. I mean, even the manager, their own manager, if they get that option, I'm sure they're gonna accept it. But they want me. I'm an agent who generated all the business, all this book of business I generated. They didn't give it to me. Wasn't a gift. Wasn't transferred to me. I generated for 9 years, and then after 9 years, and then I have to put up with all the issue, with all the, with the. I mean, there's so much things going on with the insurance, and I have to put up with all the problem. And then after that, they just offer you $1,000. I mean, I have mortgages, I have homes, I have utilities, I have insurance to pay, I have medical. They don't. We have to all get our own medical. What are you gonna pay with $1,000?
Yeah, it feels like a joke actually to me.
Yeah, I mean it's not right.
So going forward, we're going to trial, and what does that look like for you, Al and Robin? I'm sure you're going to be busy.
Yeah, I think it's a little more on me than on Al at this point. We take all the evidence, everything that we've assembled throughout the case, and we start putting it into a structure to make the proofs we have to make, and to think about which witness says which part of the story, which documents we need, things like that. And we don't have a trial date yet. There's been a backlog in the courts because of COVID. So, but once we have a trial date set, that's what happens. You just get into a serious focus and start thinking about all your evidence and what you need to use and how you present it to a jury, and let a jury listen to Al, and let a jury listen to Michigan Farm Bureau and decide for itself what happened here.
And what do you think the timeline is like?
It's very hard to tell right now. Trials have been pushed off. Additionally, in the federal courts, it's very important that criminal trials take a precedence over civil trials. So sometimes even when you have a trial date, if the judge has a criminal matter come up that has an urgency to it, your date can get moved. So again, we're just waiting to work with the judge to find a date that'll satisfy everyone.
Okay.
Maybe 6 months. It's hard to say.
Sure. And Al, what have you seen from the Chaldean community as a response to your case? Now that our article came out last month, you've been able to, we decided you're going to trial, and you're able to talk about it now. What have you seen from the Chaldean community?
Well, your newspaper went through a lot of people, Chaldean and non-Chaldean, and really a lot of people they enjoyed the article. You did a beautiful job
Thank you, Al.
presenting
Thank
the article, and not just this article. A lot of articles in that newspaper is beautiful. I like it. I always read it and always look at. But a lot of Chaldean they support me. They think I'm in the right track, and they wish me the best really with my case, and they're really supporting the case.
It's good to hear. Well, I wish you the best as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You, Al, and Robin.
Yep.
Let's get to work.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Anything else you guys want to add before we shut off?
I just really appreciate your careful attention to the issues and giving us this opportunity to talk on your program.
Thank you very much for giving us the opportunity, and especially writing this about our community. That shows that this magazine does care about Chaldean and Arabic community.
Thank you, Al, and thank you, Robin, for being on here and taking the time with us today. And to the listeners, thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.